Hey FlossTube, this is Brian, otherwise known as blitstitch, both here on YouTube and on Instagram. Welcome back. This is my October update. I'm going to talk about the things that I accomplished in October and also talk a little bit about my plans in November. But first of all, I just want to thank you for coming and spending your time with me and for giving me your time. I especially want to thank everybody for the comments that they made on my last video. You guys were just wonderful. You gave me wonderful suggestions, and you also kind of encouraged me. I didn't realize that I needed encouragement, but it was great for you guys to give me encouragement on some of the frustrations that I was feeling, and it was just really great. So thank you so much. Because of all of your great comments, there are some things that I want to respond to and also some questions that I want to answer. So let's get right to it. The first one I want to talk about is from Auntie Jen Stitches. She asked me, now that I'm working diagonally and the area that is stitched is getting pretty tall, she wanted to know what happens when I have to roll that area up in my scroll bars. What happens to my parked threads? And right now, I'm just rolling them up in the scroll bar with everything else. They don't seem to be causing problems. Because I'm stitching diagonally, I try to avoid parking threads across. And so that's limited the number of threads that I've had to roll up, and so it really hasn't caused a problem. I imagine that if I had a piece where I had a whole bunch of threads parked, that it could cause me problems with my tension. But I haven't run into that problem yet, and I guess if I do, then I'll figure out what to do about it. Auntie Jen Stitches also asked, have you considered stitching diagonally and parking horizontally? With respect to me talking about different ways that I'm considering working on my Haid piece. And on that piece, I haven't done that because I've had waist knots in the way. On my other pieces, I do that if it makes sense. Sometimes it makes sense to do that. And I imagine that may be something that I try. Instead of working horizontally, to try parking horizontally and still working diagonally. I'm still kind of going through my mind different ways to work through that piece to try to make it so that it doesn't feel quite so discouraging to me. We'll see what happens. It's going to take me another time through the rotation before I even get to the point where I feel like I can do that. One of the things I talked about in my last video is on my Mirabilia piece Red. I talked about how I have a dark thread running through the back that is showing through. And I had a couple of people say, oh, just leave it in, nobody can see it but you, and it's not that big a deal. And I'm going to kind of get a little bit philosophical here. I will see it, and it will bug me, and it will canker my soul. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but it will bug me, and I will not be able to look at that piece and not see that thread. There's just no way. So it's going to have to be fixed. I've decided that. So I'm going to have to fix that. Vanna Pfeiffer, with respect to the dark thread, asked if I could try tweezing it out, and I actually considered doing that, and I looked at it closely, and it's really tacked down pretty tightly. I didn't want to play with it a little bit very much because I was afraid of distorting my stitches. But I imagine that when I pick Red back up again, I'll look at trying to tweeze it out first, trying to pull it out from the back rather than pulling out a bunch of stitches. We'll see what happens. Tina Healy asked me, why don't you just stitch on the things that are screaming at you? And the short answer to that is, that way lies chaos. And the long answer is, I'll talk about my rotation philosophy. When I work on a piece, I go through 3 phases on a piece. The first phase is the beginning phase, and that phase is exciting. I'm starting a new piece, and I want to stitch because I want it to start looking like something. I don't want it to be just a blob of colors. I want it to start looking like something. So I am compelled to work on it to make it to start to look like something. And then after a while, I get a little bit tired of the piece and I hit the middle phase. And the middle phase is the dreaded phase. And that's the phase where I've been working on this piece forever and I'm sick of it and it's never going to end. And that is the hardest phase for me. And eventually I get to a point where I can start seeing the end. And when I see the end coming, then I hit the end phase. And in that phase, I get really excited to stitch on it again because I want to finish it. I want to see it finished. So I go through these 3 phases. I've done it on every single project. I think part of the problem with Autumn Magic is I'm in the middle phase and I've got so much more to do. And part of the reason why I do my rotation is it gets me through the middle phase on the pieces that I'm in the middle phase. Now, when I'm in that phase, when I'm not really liking that project, I must have liked it before because I wanted to start it, and I do want to finish it. I know that I want to finish it. But emotionally, sometimes it's kind of hard for me to stitch on that. And my rotation, having pieces scream at me, pulls me through the middle, the pieces that I'm in the middle phase on. So that is why I use those as a pull to get me through the pieces that I don't really want, that I'm not so enamored with. Also, the other reason why I like to do a rotation is it's another system. In my video that I talked about parking, one of the things I said is parking is a system for me that makes it so that I don't have to make decisions on what I'm going to stitch. My rotation is a system for me that also makes it so that I don't have to decide what I'm going to stitch next. If every day I have to think, oh, what piece is screaming at me? What piece do I want to stitch? I'm going to get decision fatigue, and then I'm not going to want to stitch on anything. So that's the reason why that I don't just stitch on the pieces that scream at me, because it's good to have them screaming at me. Teresa Boyer gave me a tip on using hair clips or barrettes to control parked threads, and thank you Teresa for that tip. I haven't used it yet because this month I've been stitching on pieces that I really haven't had to do a lot of parking on, so I really haven't felt like I need it, but I'll consider doing that in the future. Irene Chan asked me to talk about the measurements that I use for my table stand. She wants to make one and wanted to know what my measurements were. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about my table stand. It's also a lap stand. And I drew a diagram. I am terrible drawing this kind of stuff. But here it is. Basically, you have this frame that holds my frame. You can see it's a piece like that with elbows and then T's. This is where the legs hook up. And let's see here. This is a view of that from the side. There's an elbow that bends up, and that elbow is what holds my frame on the stand. And then I also have the legs where I have a piece and I have the leg come up, and from the side view there's another elbow that hooks up into here. So if you're going to build one of these, you need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You need 10 elbows and 2 T's and a length of, I believe this is 1/2 inch PVC pipe. If you live in the United States, you can get this at like You can get all this stuff at Lowe's or Home Depot or Ace Hardware, anywhere that sells home improvement stuff, anywhere that sells lawn sprinkler stuff. You can get this stuff, and you'll also need primer and glue to glue your joints together. Now, I would suggest that you cut all your pieces out and assemble it, dry fit everything together, and use it that way for a little while, because you may not like my measurements. You may want to make a few adjustments, and if you don't glue it, then you can make them, and when you're happy with the way things are, then you can glue it. So you start out with this long piece. This is the width of your frame. See, this is my frame. This piece here is 18 inches long. Then you have the 2 elbows on the end, and then on each side coming down, I have, these are each 7 inches long. These 2 pieces here are 7 inches long. So you've got 4 of those for each side. So you put in a side that's 7 inches long. You put a T pointing out that way, out towards the outside of your frame, and then another piece that's 7 inches long. And then you put in this elbow that points up, and then this stub here is 3 inches long on each side. So this is my frame that holds my scroll frame. It kind of sits like this. My frame sits here on it, and it's held up. Okay, so this is the frame. Now the next thing you want to do is you want to make 2 legs, and like I say, the legs are basically, you have the vertical piece and then the horizontal base. I have elbows on the end just as feet for them to stand on. Okay, this is for my table stand. For my table stand, the shorter length faces towards the front. That pushes my frame closer to the edge of the table. And these lengths here, let's see. This length is 6 inches. This is 11 inches, and this is 4 inches. Okay, and you'll see I made these a long time ago. I haven't glued them yet because I'm lazy. They hold together pretty well. Every once in a while a piece falls out, and then I just stick it in. And then this is if I'm using it as a lap stand. This is a leg for the lap stand. I have equal length on the base. So for this one, the length of this is 11 inches, and these sides here are 7 inches. That puts it higher. I need it higher because it's sitting across my lap, and it also puts it more towards the middle. Oh, and then this stub here, this stub that fits into the frame is 3 inches as well. So when you glue this, you want to glue, you'll see I glued my frame together and my legs are glued together, but this stub that I used to hook the legs to the frame is not glued. And that way I can tilt my frame however I want it to be the best that it wants to be. Okay, so that's my that's my stand, and I really like it. I stitch mostly at my table, and it's wonderful. It's nice to have both my hands free because then I can stitch two-handed, and I don't know, I don't think I'd be able to live without it anymore. Also, a very slow stitcher asked me if I'm interested in reproduction samplers, and I've got to admit, primitive stitching, early American samplers, visually they just don't attract me all that much. There are some exceptions to that rule, but as a general rule, they don't really speak to me. One thing that I do find interesting, and she pointed out a couple of sites that I looked at, and there are a couple of, I find that I really like the 17th century band samplers. I really like those. They're colorful and complicated, and I really like them. But as a general rule, I'm not really into stitching primitive. Okay. Also, I want to make a shout out to a Stitch Too Far. If you haven't seen her, check her out. I'm going to put a link to her channel below. And she lives in the Netherlands, and she has started using my diagonal parking method. And she actually did a video. She, instead of starting down in the lower left hand like I do, she decided she wanted to stitch up in the upper right hand. And she pulled out my diagram, and she had a hard time figuring out exactly how to do things, but she figured it out. So that makes me think that when I was doing my video, I probably should have given more examples of how I'd stitch if I were starting in a different corner. But I'll link to her video where she went through how she decided how to do things. So if you're looking at stitching diagonally like I do, and you want to stitch in a different corner, start in a different corner than what I started in my video, you can watch her video, and that will help you. That might help you figure out that chart. It was really cool to see that she'd printed out my chart and was using that. That was really cool. And she's really great. She's actually working on a piece called Patient Stitcher by Tempting Tangles. I need to stitch that piece because I need to be patient. I think part of my frustration last month was because I wasn't being patient. So that was something that I need to do. So those are all my questions. Thank you so much for those comments. I hope to receive more comments from you. It's just wonderful interacting with you. So now I want to talk about the update of my progress in October. October was a great stitching month for me. It was stressful because I had a big responsibility that I had at the end of the month, and that caused me stress all through the month. But my stitching was a refuge for me and helped calm me down every night so I could actually sleep. So let's get to what I was able to accomplish. The first piece that I worked on this month was English Garden Sampler. And as always, if I forget to say details about these pieces, they'll be in the notes below, so you can look them up in the notes below. The first piece that I worked on is English Garden Sampler. This is a sampler by Teresa Wentzler. I am stitching this on, I think it's 25 count even weave. It's either 25 or 28 count. And I'll insert a picture of what it looked like the last time you saw it here. Now and this is what it looks like now. Now I've been working the entire border around the outside, and I kind of had a goal to finish the border around the outside, and I got to a point where I didn't think I was going to make it because I had a couple nights where I didn't have a lot of time to stitch, but I powered through and the entire border is finished. Well, there's still specialty stitches that need to be done, but I'm saving those till after I do all the cross stitching. But I'm so happy I finished the border. I was getting really sick of this border. It was really causing me. I mean, when you have your board something memorized, and all you have to do is stitch it over and over again, it gets really monotonous. I'm going to try to use this to hold things up a little bit better. So this is really cool. I'm really happy with my progress. The next time I come in here, I'm going to start working on the inside, and I don't know if I'm going to work on this up here, the garden scene, or if I'm going to start down here at the bottom and work up. I haven't decided yet, but I'm really happy with this. And my spreadsheet says that I'm about 45% finished because the border's finished. You wouldn't think that the border would be so much of this piece, but evidently it is. So I'm almost halfway done, which I can't believe that. I just don't believe that, but that's what my spreadsheet says. The next piece that I worked on is Corazon Sampler. This is a design by Claude Remy Designs. It's a company and designer in Belgium. It's a French alphabet type sampler. I'm stitching this on 36 count Edinburgh linen, antique white. And I'll insert a picture of what it looked like before. And here is what I've been able to accomplish. And once again, I did a lot more than I ever thought I'd be able to do. So I finished, I had 2 stitches, I had 2 letters up here in this alphabet or this font that I had to stitch. Then I finished that, and then I stitched all the way to L on that next alphabet and all the way to M on the smaller alphabet. I did a little bit more of the border. I put in the rabbit. That rabbit was really fun to stitch. And then finally the urn. There's flowers that need to be added into the urn, which I'll do next time. I really love this piece. This is so fun to stitch. And I don't know. There are people, I've heard people say that they don't like stitching alphabets. I mean, so to me, I love them because I love the symmetry of the letters. And I love the way each letter is a little bit different. And I love seeing the variation. And besides, this isn't an alphabet. This is a work of art. This big letter with these garlands coming across, and how each garland is a little bit different, comes a little bit different. This alphabet too, this font here, I really like. It's like vines and leaves. Now this one, yeah, and this one I can understand, they're kind of boring. But how can you look at these letters and not want to stitch them? They're so wonderful. And I love the border. It's kind of getting monotonous to stitch because it's the same thing over and over again. But I really like the way it looks. I just love this piece. And also, I've kind of been playing around with the time-lapse camera on my phone. And I took a couple of time-lapse pictures of me, a couple of videos time-lapse of me stitching this piece. And I'm going to insert a couple of them here so you can kind of see them. The iPhone time-lapse feature is kind of interesting. When you do a time-lapse, it automatically adjusts the sampling size so that your final time-lapse video is always about 40 seconds long. And so in some of these videos I'm stitching faster than in others, and that's just because I was taking video for a longer time. I'll insert them here so you can just take a look at that and see what you think about that. Like that. That's really cool, and I wish I could stitch that fast in real life. That'd be awesome to be able to stitch that fast. Okay, the next piece that I worked on was And a Forest Grew. This is by Rosewood Manor. I'm stitching it on 32 count antique white Lugana, I believe. And I'll insert a picture of what it looked like before. And this is what I've been able to accomplish this time. So basically, let's see here. Put the cover up. Basically, I stitched from here over. I finished another page, and the page border is like right in here. So I actually am well on my way of stitching the next page over. And this is also a joy to stitch. I am really amazed. I really like how she uses color. Like the orange of the fruit of this tree is duplicated in this this butterfly. The purple of I've decided these are flowers, that this isn't a tree. The purple of the flowers are the same as the purple here. Look at that bee. That's really cool. And I mean, and the funniest thing happens. I mean, I stitched this tree first, and that tree was fun. That was my favorite tree. And then I stitched this tree, and this was my favorite. It's like every tree I stitch becomes my favorite. They're just all so fun to work on, and they're all different, but they're all the same. I mean, you've got this bunny here. It's the same design as this bunny, but there's a little bit of a variation. This bunny's a little bit darker. And even when you've got trees that are basically the same, there's a little bit of a variation in the trees. So, I mean, it's just fun to stitch. I've enjoyed this so much. I know from Instagram that this is probably the most popular piece that I'm stitching, and I also know that because they've all commented that there are like 3 or 4 stitchers. 3 or 4 of you are planning on stitching this in January, starting on January 1st. And I know that watching me and watching Stephanie over at Lindy Stitches is giving you guys the itch to start this early. And all I have to say is don't let me stop you. You can start any time you want. I'm kind of joking, and I'm going to warn you, I'm probably going to be stitching this again before the end of the year. So just be prepared for a little bit more temptation. If you're on the fence about stitching this piece, I would encourage you to do it. It's so fun. You'll love it. You'll love it. The final piece that I stitched, well, not the final piece. The next piece that I worked on was my Mallard, which is a design that was in For the Love of Cross Stitch magazine, November 1994. It's a part of a series of 4 duck decoys. They're based on paintings by Judy Gibson, and I was looking and I realized that the needlework adaptation was done by Donna Vermilion Giampa, which I've stitched another one of her pieces. I stitched her eagle. I really like her stuff. So maybe that's why I'm attracted to this. And I'm going to show you a picture. I'm not going to show you what it's supposed to look like, but I will show you what it looked like last time you saw it. And this is what it looks like now. And I am so happy because I finished her. I finished this Mallard duck decoy. Now, I've been I think the last time I showed this, I said, this is small and it's stupid. It's small and I don't love it. And actually, as this was coming up, I was kind of dreading working on it because it's like, I don't really want to work on it. But when I actually pulled it out and looked at it, I thought, you know, this looks pretty nice. I like how it looks, and I'm going to finish it. So I finished it, and it was actually fun to stitch on. It's kind of a palette cleanser after all my big things, and I got a finish. And so that's exciting too. And I think I'm going to stitch the other 3 ducks. So I'm going to keep this the whole series in my rotation, and the next time it comes around, I'm going to stitch the next duck. But I really like it. I like the colors, and the back stitching just adds just that much more to it. I just when I finished it, that was just so wonderful. It's a good feeling to have a finish. I posted on Instagram that this was the first finish of 2016 for me, and I got looking back through my records, and it's actually the second. I finished 12 Days by Plum Street Samplers like on the 3rd or 4th of January. So that one almost feels like it's a finish for 2015 because I stitched most of it in 2015. So this is my second finish of 2016, and it feels good to have a finish. So that's great. The next thing that I worked on, you know, I don't normally do bandwagons. But I couldn't resist this one. This is the Beautiful Sea Stitch Along. It's a stitch along that's being done by Eric Shipley of Ship's Manor. And when I saw the floss that he was using and saw that he was offering at a discount for people who were participating in the stitch along, I just couldn't resist. So I have stitched the first and second part of this stitch along. So I'm up to date with it. This fabric is Brown Sugar by Under the Sea Fabrics. I actually just pulled this out of my stash. I had gotten this for another design, but when I got it, I decided that the brown was too warm. So I decided to use it for this. And I really like how it's turning out. I love these colors. I love this blue, the green. I was a little bit worried about how this color would show up on this fabric because it's pretty similar, and it kind of fades in a little bit, but I think it's fine. I actually am considering part 2 finished. There's actually the beginning of another motif that starts here, but I'm waiting to do that because I don't quite know how I'm going to work through that motif yet. And then on the last day of October, I had a little bit more time left to stitch, and so I pulled out my season sampler. This is a stitch along by Abby Gurdon of Bees Needleworks. If you go to the Stitch Specialists group on Facebook, I think you can still do it. She used to offer it as a discount. I don't think it's offered, the discount is available anymore. I'm going to insert a picture of what this looked like the last time you saw it. And I have stitched part 8 and part 9 of this. Now I have to confess that I haven't particularly, I just didn't feel these 2 parts for some reason. Now that I see them stitched, I really like them. I like how it looks, but I really had a hard time making myself stitch them. I just wasn't excited about stitching them. And I don't know, because of that, I mean, Abby suggests randomly putting in French knots and colonial knots for the leaves. I just didn't do that. I just couldn't bring myself to do all those knots. And she also suggests doing buttonhole bars for the trunks. I haven't done that either. So, I may go back in and do that. I haven't decided yet, but I was afraid of starting it and not liking it and then having a big mess that I'd have to figure out how to take out. But I really like how it looks. I like the deer. I have one more part to stitch. She released part 9 yesterday. So part 9's all ready to go. I'm going to stitch part 9. and then put this up until December when the next part comes out. I'm excited about part 9. Part 9 looks like it's going to be really fun and a little bit challenging. So that's all that I worked on for the month of October. And I feel like I accomplished a whole lot. And so I'm going to do my analytics, my graphs, and after the cliff that I had in September, I have a big spike. Now, of course, once again, this number isn't entirely accurate. Somehow my rotation has ended up with, I have a bunch of pieces that have a bunch of negative space in one month and a bunch of pieces that don't have negative space in another month. So this is a lot of spaces. And the biggest contributor of this big spike is my Corazon Sampler. That has a lot of negative space, and because of the way I stitch it, it just turned out that I ended up doing a lot of blocks. But I'm really happy with that. You'll see this is everything that I worked on. I had 2 days when I didn't stitch, and that's because of the big commitment that I had at the end of the month. But other than that, and then here's the number of stitches. You see this big spike with the Corazon Sampler, and everything else is about the same. And just average number of stitches. Once again, you see Corazon Sampler. There's just so much negative space in there that I can stitch a lot, that I can cover a lot more space. So I'm really happy with October. So my plans for November, I've got one more part to do on the season sampler, and then I'm going to finish this. I talked about this last time. I didn't know exactly when my weeks were going to fall. This is going to be finished, and I hope this only takes about a week. All I've got to do is a bunch of backstitch, a bunch of letters. I've got all my names charted out. They're all ready to go. All I have to do is execute. So I'm going to execute and get this done. And then I'm going to show you the next 4 pieces that I'll be working on. I don't know exactly how things are going to work out. Towards the end of the month, we are going to be traveling. We have a wedding out of state, and of course Thanksgiving. So that entire week is going to be up in the air. So my plans are subject to change without notice, as always. But this is what is coming up in my rotation. The first piece of my rotation is Autumn Magic, and I've got to admit, I'm still not feeling a real desire to work on this. I may just say, oh, you start working on it and you'll be fine. Or I may delay it a couple of times because I did that thing where I stitched it in the middle of my rotation, and so I haven't gone through my entire rotation before I finish this. So I may shift this position in my rotation. The next piece would be Verandas of South Battery. I'm excited because I'm hoping to be able to finish my blue house and maybe start this yellow house. That'll be cool. Winter Sampler will be the next one. I'm excited about this. I'm going to finish this diamond here. It will be all finished. When I finish the diagonal that I'm working on, I'll hit this corner. That's a milestone because then that means that my diagonals are not going to be growing anymore. I'll be able to work on Santa and finish the gingerbread man. And then, I don't know, this will probably leak into December, but red would be the next thing up. And I've got a mistake to fix, as I've talked about, and then I'll continue stitching her. I'm really excited about her. I mean, I'm getting up into up into this part here, and she's really, really looking good. So that's awesome. So just one more thing. Once again, I want to thank everybody for subscribing. And I've been watching the number of my subscribers, and I hit 1,000 subscribers this month. And I am kind of shocked and amazed. I've only been doing these videos since July, and I never expected that in like, what, 4 months, 3 or 4 months, that I would have 1,000 subscribers. And I'm just amazed that you would want to listen to me. It's been great. I've really enjoyed doing this. There aren't a lot of people that know that I cross-stitch in real life, and it is nice to talk about it and to be able to share what I've been able to do with you guys, and I've really appreciated that. So as a thank you, I've decided that I'm going to do a giveaway. Now I've been trying to decide what I wanted to do for a giveaway, and I kind of went through the stuff that I have, and I don't have anything that I feel would be worthy of giveaway worthy. It'd be more like me giving you my cast-offs, which I don't really want to do. And the thought of buying something and then giving it away didn't really make sense to me, because there may be people who wouldn't want that. So I want to give you something that you want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer a $30 gift certificate to 123 Stitch as a giveaway. And here are the rules for the giveaway. You need to be a subscriber to my channel. You need to be 18 years or older, or have permission from your parent or guardian to enter. And you're going to need to be able to eventually provide me an email address that I can send your gift certificate to. Those are the only eligibility requirements. We will keep this giveaway open for the entire month of November, so I will close it on November 30th, and I'll announce the winner in my December video. And the way I want you to enter is I want to take this as an opportunity to learn from you. So I love gadgets. I love tools, and I would love to learn from you what kind of tools or gadgets you use what is your favorite tool or gadget that you use in your stitching. And you can say, something as easy as your scroll frame. That's fine. I'll enter you in the giveaway. But I am looking for creativity. If there is a gadget that you use that you wouldn't normally use that you wouldn't normally associate with cross stitching, that you use to help in your cross stitching, I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to hear about any creative way that you use things to help you in your stitching. So all you need to do is comment below and tell me what your favorite tool or gadget for cross stitching is. And we'll close it on November 30th, and then in my next video I'll announce the winners. So go ahead, have fun commenting. We'll see what you say. Thank you so much for watching. Please continue to comment, like, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. If you want to follow my daily progress on Instagram, I'm blitstitch on Instagram. Feel free to follow me there as well. And I hope that you have a great November, and we'll talk to you in about a month. Thanks and goodbye.